All right, you're being recorded to my cloud now. And before we get into what I want to talk about for the bulk of the meeting, I want to remind you and bother you again about challenging you to make sure that you've set goals for 2025 for yourself. And I really, really think that it's important, and I really, really think that it's a serious, serious component to you being successful and getting where you want to go. I haven't heard from any of you that you have, but let's assume that you have. If you have set them for yourself, then I really, really, really want to challenge you to one of my mottos for the year. I'll get a little hocus pocus here for a minute. But one of my mottos for the year is courage. So like what I really want to focus on this year is courage. And courage in the sense of, I think I'm a pretty brave guy, but courage to do the things that I don't necessarily want to do, or courage to do the things that, we all have those things that we think we should probably do in our business or that we should probably do in our personal life, but maybe there's a little bit of fear of rejection, or maybe there's a fear of looking like a who knows what. And so it's really easy to find something else to do instead. I want to avoid that because I have convinced myself that if I would have taken action on all of the things that I thought were a good idea over the years, I'd probably be a billionaire and be one of the oligarchs that we're in danger of having in this country. So I don't want to miss out on being an oligarch anymore. So I'm really focusing on that aspect of courage for 2025. So the reason I share that with you is if you have goals crafted, or if you've kind of got goals crafted and you're halfway there, I want you to be brave for 15 seconds and set an appointment with me to sit down, either in person or on Zoom. It really doesn't matter, whatever works best for you, and hash out some action plans and do some math, because I want you guys to be able to achieve those goals, right? Like, there is nothing more frustrating than working hard to really think about where you want to go, working hard to really think about what you want to do, putting that down on paper, and then just not nailing it or not even getting close. Now, the economy has something to do with that. Okay, we've got to remember that. Like, last year, I certainly didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve, and the economy had a lot to do with that. But I am also convinced that it would have been a whole lot worse for me personally and for the business if I didn't have those goals and those targets established. I mean, most of the year I was like, shit, I'm not going to make it. Shit, I'm not going to make it. Shit, I don't have the market out there to do it. This really sucks. But I was comparing to something, I was shooting for something. And knowing that you're down 50% is still better than not knowing where you are at all. Like not having any idea, knowing that you put a lot of thought into something and that you set a goal for yourself and that you're only going to achieve 75% of it is still better than kind of floating around, like a ship that's got a snapped mast and is just kind of drifting around in the ocean. Because if you don't have some set of goals and some set of action plan or idea about how you want to try and achieve those goals, you're really just drifting like the feather in Forrest Gump. You're really just waiting for something good to happen. And I just don't think we're in that market yet. Like, I'll be honest, 2020, 2019, then going back into the early 2000s, you could do that. You could just kind of sit around and wait for something to happen, and it generally would. But I just don't think that we're quite there yet. 2025 is going to be better than 2024. There's no doubt in my mind, but it's not going to be that great yet, right? Like it's not going to be pandemic great. It's not going to be, hey, Alan, 2001, 2002 great. Alan knows what I'm talking about when I say that. So give it some thought. If you haven't given it some thought, be brave either way. If you don't have anything on paper, you don't know what you want to achieve, be brave enough to ask me to help you with that, okay? If you do have an idea of what you want to achieve, but you haven't written out an action plan or done the math on what it's going to take to get there, be brave enough to ask me for help with that. And you're going to have a much, much better chance of nailing it. Okay. Much better chance of nailing it. Any questions before we jump into the rest of it? Okay. How many of you watched, what we're going to be talking about today is James and Keith. If you know who they are, great. If you don't know who they are, James is our CEO. Keith is our CSO, which is a Chief Strategic Officer. Okay. These two guys are the smartest. Well, not this. Well, some of the smartest. It's probably a tie for, like smartest guy, but these two guys are some of the smartest people I've ever met and that I've ever dealt with. They are really, really, really sharp. Okay. James is the smartest man I know in real estate when it comes to real estate at the national level, when it comes to real estate as a business, when it comes to things that are on the radar that are going to impact real estate. Keith is an economic Rain Man. The guy is an economic Rain Man. He stores all this economic data in his brain. He Rain Mans it, and then he comes up with predictions or calls out trends that you're just like, how did you even do that? But it doesn't matter because are they right all the time? No, but they're so consistently close and so consistently accurate that it's just incredible. 3 years ago, James Dwiggins called out the NAR lawsuit before any of it ever happened, before it was filed. How do you do that? He's like, oh, this is bad. This is going to happen. Something's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it happened. When it first filed, he was the first one shouting from the mountaintop, we're all going to lose and we're all going to have to change everything that we're doing. And everybody said, oh, you're nuts. It's never going to change. It's always going to be the same. It's always been this way. It'll always be this way. And one of the reasons that we're so good at it and that we're so ready for it and that we have all of the stuff that nobody else has to be able to take on these changes is because 2 years ago, he said, well, it's coming. And he put the marketing department and everybody at NextHome Corporate on this path to create a program for today. So these guys are really, really smart. They have a podcast called Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered. It's kind of funny because they call it unfiltered, I think, because they say what they're going to say. But James also is notorious for having potty mouth. So it's kind of fun. And what we're going to be talking about today is they just released their podcast for 2025 predictions. I put it on my Facebook feed. If you want to watch it, go ahead and watch it. If you do, I'm going to warn you, it doesn't sound that rosy. And I need you to remember this. And we talk about this a lot. Real estate is hyper local, right? What happens in real estate and anything described in real estate is hyper local. When they talk on the Real Estate Insiders podcast, they're talking national, right? They're talking national or macroeconomics, unless they specify that they're talking about a certain geographical area. But when they talk on that podcast, they talk national. And it's still really, really valuable, but you have to be able to take that information and say, great, that's what's going on at the national level, or that's what's happening on the global level. What does that mean for Placer and Sacramento County? And that's what we're going to do today, right now. I'm going to go through the highlights of the podcast and what they talked about, highlights as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to tell you what it means for Placer and Sacramento County, Greater Placer, Sacramento, which would include El Dorado, which would include Nevada, okay? I'm going to tell you what it means for our primary markets and what it means for your business and what I think you need to do and what I'm doing based on that same information, okay? So, we're way deep into it. So yeah, you guys all have the power. You can jump in whenever you want. Go ahead and jump on in and say something or stop me. All right. So let's get moving because there's a lot to go through and I don't want to have you here all day and bore you to death. Rates. They talked about rates. We all agree with our perspective on rates. I had read some stuff from some other places and talked to you guys about it a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Their information was very, very similar. However, Keith, Mr. Robinson, brought up a really good point, and that is he feels like we're in a higher for longer pattern, which means that we're in a plus 6% for a longer period of time pattern with regard to rate. We already talked about that. But 3 weeks ago, our group said, look, the best that we can hope for in 2025 is a rate of somewhere around 6.5, right? He went into it a little bit deeper than that and said, well, no, not exactly. So yes, probably the best we can hope for consistently is 6.5. Yes, probably where we'll finish at the end of the year is 6.5. But in between now and the end of the year, there is going to be these fluctuations that are a little bit different than what we've seen in 2024. Meaning, they're not just going to hit six, and they're not going to go down to 6.5 and hit 6.5 and stay there. What they're going to do is they're going to go down a little bit, and then they're going to dip for a week or 2 weeks. And then they're going to come up and they're going to be 7.25 for a couple of weeks. And then they're going to dip, to 6 for a day. And so they're going to go like this, right? But overall, if you drew a line right through the middle of it, kind of the baseline or the control number would be somewhere around 6.5%. That's pretty important, because what that means is that when we are talking to people who are talking about rates, and we're talking to people who are thinking about it, the best thing that we can do and the best service that we can provide a client is say, hey, go get pre-qualified, right? Go get pre-qualified. And understand that we really believe that there are going to be moments where, hell, this thing might even start with 5. But you've got to be 100, Mr. or Mrs. buyer or potential buyer. You have got to be 100% homework done, ready to jump when that happens, right? Which also means we've got to have a pretty good relationship with people we trust that do loan. We have to know when rates are really, really good. We have to be able to tell that to our buyers. Our buyers have to have that kind of loan person that they're pre-qualified with, right? So that they can jump. Let me give you an example as to why. Let's say we've got a buyer that's at the $400,000 range. We've already talked about how difficult it's going to be for them. Okay, they're searching. They can only do 400 at 6.5, right? But they're pre-qualified. They've done all their underwriting homework. They've done everything that they're supposed to do, and they're ready to strike. And then suddenly there's a 575. There's a little 575 blip. For that week, they might be able to go 450 for that week. When that goes away, they're going to be right back to where they were. Okay. So these windows are going to be small, but they've really got to be taken advantage of. And now let me give you one more story, okay, about how this works and how fast you have to be. Okay. And I'm not tooting my own horn here. Okay. This is just, I know this is true because we went through it. All right. When we bought this house at the absolute rate peak, and we bought it there on purpose. Okay. Because there was no way that the price was going to get any lower than when the rate was 8. All right. And I said, well, it's going to take 6 payments because you got to make 6 payments before you can refi, but then the refi is going to come and it's all going to be fine. It's going to be great. Like, going to refi at like 5.25. It's going to be awesome. Made exactly 6 payments. Okay. Called my friend, my loan friend, said, I got 6 payments in. What's the deal? And he goes, send me everything today. today, right now. Do it right now. And I said, well, you know, I got this, like, I want to pay this off. It's today, right now. Do it right now. And I wasn't really ready, you know? So I said, oh shit, okay. So send all the stuff in, send all the stuff in. And he's just firing stuff back at me like you wouldn't believe. Sign this, do this, sign this, do this, sign this, do this. And keep in mind, we've been working together for like 20 years, right? So I'm like, click, 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 click. And I finally asked him, I said, hey, Jake, what is the hurry? And he goes, I got to get you locked today. Today. And I said, okay, you know, whatever. I trust you. You know, do what you got to do. Okay. That lock was 5.5. The next week, the next week, it was 675, and it hasn't gone back down since. Okay, what was that? June, right? It was one little blip in one little week, and the timing that I had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with me. It was timing was absolutely perfect. Okay. So the 6 month, you must pay 6 months had gone by. It just so happened to fall in that one little week of blip, that one little dip in rate. Okay. I worked with somebody that I really, really trust. Okay. And I've known for a long time. That person knew I got to take action. Okay. We've got to really take action, took action, and just it saved us thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars. Okay. Your clients can do that too. They can take advantage of those windows. And that was a long time. But that's really, really important when we start to talk about rate and when your clients start to talk about, I think it's the biggest conversation out there next to affordability is rate, right? Everybody wants to talk about rate. So when somebody starts talking to you about rate, be prepared to illustrate this diagram that we've talked about. Encourage them to get in position to take action very, very quickly. And then encourage them to realize that when there is a down, that down is probably pretty short-lived. Take action. Don't wait. Take action. Because from our perspective, had we said, Jake, don't want to go that fast. You know, I don't want to go that fast. I don't want to do that. You know, I mean, you're pushing me. I don't like it. You know, slow down. Where would we be? Where would we be today? In the same spot that we were in that spot, doing nothing except waiting. You know, like everybody else, and that would be horrible. Okay. Any questions about that? About rate and how to have that conversation and what that graph looks like? No? Okay. Sales in units. Somewhere nationally between 4.2 and 4.4 million units. Okay. About 10% increase from last year. About what we've been talking about. Talked about winners and losers. Who's going to be a winner in this market? Who's going to be a loser in this market? Okay. Let's talk about the losers first because we've talked about them a lot, and I think we need to cover it real quick again, just to remind you. We're not calling them losers. That's not. We shouldn't say they're losers. They're not losers. We're talking about the people that are going to have a tough time. We're talking about the first-time home buyer, okay, the entry-level home buyer. Again, we've covered it, but it's worth covering again. They are in real trouble, all right? They are in real trouble, and our primary markets where we live and where we sell are those markets that have a legitimate chance of truly pricing out a significant number of people. Okay. A significant number of people. I said that a few weeks ago. These guys who are way smarter than me said that today. Therefore, all of the tactic and the strategy and the thought that I talked about with you 3 weeks ago, I feel really, really strongly about set your business plan accordingly. Have your conversations accordingly. Manage your time accordingly, because it's not going to change. Not this year. It's not going to change. All right. Those folks that are trying to purchase below median are going to have a very, very difficult time. Okay. The rate is going to get into their way. All right. It's going to mess up the qualification, the monthly amount that they can pay, the debt to income ratio, all of that stuff, all of those ratios that have to gel to be able to qualify for a mortgage. Those are going to be jacked up, and they're going to be messed up because of a 6 to 8% interest rate, right? Depending on where they are. That's not going to change. We're not getting any assistance when it comes to price in that lower level, even though the rates are higher. We're not getting any help. Price is not going down. It's flat or increasing. So those folks are going to have trouble. The biggest winners of this market, and this is where we're going to spend kind of the rest of our time, because this has to do with you. The biggest winners in this market, according to James, will be real estate agents that can demonstrate their value proposition to clients. Okay. What does that mean? We've talked about that a number of times before, but what exactly does that mean? Think back to about 2 months ago when we talked about the effect of, I'll just call them the lawsuits and the judgments, when we talked about the effect of judgments on commissions. Everybody remember that meeting? Okay. Listing agent commissions stayed pretty static as far as we're concerned, right? West Coast, California, as far as we're concerned, listing agent commissions stayed pretty static. Not much change. Buyer's agent commissions. A couple of really interesting points to recap. Our region took the biggest hit in buyer's agents commissions, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but what I mean is that if status quo before the judgments was 2.5%, our region, California, took the biggest hit from that 2.5% in a downward direction of any other region in the country. Okay. But while that was happening, we saw that there was a clear difference between those that were making a lot less and those that were making the same or more compared to the old status quo. And what I mean is this: if the average commission had been reduced to 2 in California, what that meant was half of the agents were making 3.5, and the other half of the agents were making 1. Okay. And there wasn't that kind of dynamic in any other part of the country. Why? I'll tell you why. There is an almost predictable gut check move that as soon as it gets hard, there's a series of people out there that the first thing they do is go to discount, right? They don't want to lose business. They know business is going to get harder, so they automatically go to discount. And that looks like this. Oh shit, right? Like, buyers have to pay commissions now. I know buyers can't afford commissions now. Everybody's going to go to the listing agent. I only do buyers. How am I going to pay my bills? I'm going to go out and advertise that I'll rep buyers for 1%. Okay, for 1%. That's going to discount, right? Race to the bottom. That's going to discount. So there was a lot of that. But there was also a lot of, and I'm going to pick on Alan. Is he still driving? Okay, he's muted and on camera, but he can't see me. I'm going to pick on Alan because he sent me a contract. Okay. He sent me a contract. He wrote up an offer. He's repping a buyer. He wrote an offer. The seller counter came back, and there was 3 or 4 counter items on the seller counter But guess what number one was? Seller to pay 1%. I know I'm not supposed to just look, nobody sue me. If you're out there, internet, don't sue me. I don't have the word in my head right now. Concession. Concession. Seller to pay 1% concession for buyer's agent. 1%. And I'm like, gosh, shit, man. And I thought that that was signed, right? I thought that was the contract. And I'm like, oh, well, I mean, there's worse things in the world, but whatever. But then there was another attachment, and I opened the other attachment, and it was Alan's buyer counter, and it was like, oh, hell no, it's 2.5%, right? Right back at him. Okay. They signed it, it's in contract, but they tried. But I'm going to tell you, I mean, like I said, I've known him a long time. We go way, way back. And if he's got one thing, he's got moxie. He will tell you, oh shit, no, I don't work for that. Like, no, like I'm worth it. I'm going to work my tail off for you. I got you this deal in the first place. Somebody's paying it. Who's paying it? And the buyer's going, I ain't paying it. And so Alan went back to the seller and said, you're paying it. Okay. And they did. Let's be honest. How many of us would do that in a super tight situation? How many agents out there will do that in a super tight situation? How many agents out there would just be like, well, I mean, I got to pay the mortgage. Yeah, I guess that's what it's going to be. This is going to be a cheap one. Okay. When I talk about agents that can demonstrate value, make more money, there is no more clear example than what he did. Okay, that is an actual thing that happened, an actual occurrence with someone in our office that was
James,
able to. What?
let me interrupt you for a minute.
Oh,
It's
there he
worse.
is.
It's worse. I'm driving. I don't know how to get my face on, but I guess my
That's all
face
right.
is not that pretty anyways.
That's all
But
right.
anyways, I picked up on the agent. This was all from the agent. This was not from the seller at all. This was they even after the deal was done, the agent was still trying to squeeze me. And I actually had to get a little nasty with her in a polite mannerism, of course. No cussing, but kind of said it
No.
right. Well, you know how I could be. I was very diplomatic because she was a foreigner. Yeah. And she listed the house for 4%. It was, and when I found out how she even got it, she just walked up to the person. She was showing her property down the street, walked up to the person and said, I'll list it for you for 2%. So the guy didn't even know what he did. And
So
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 she
that makes it even more complicated. That means that she had a discounted commission built into the listing, and she had to go chip
yeah,
the seller for money that he had no idea he was going to pay.
right. So she had it came out of her pocket. Trust me. God, I couldn't believe how nasty an agent can. I mean, I can't. You could do that in Southern Cal, but you don't do that here. Okay.
Oh man. All right. Thanks for filling me in with the rest of the details, Alan. That's
So you
that's
gotta
huge.
watch. You gotta watch out for some agents because agents are out there. I mean, I would never do that to another agent.
Well, and you're absolutely right.
We'll let him.
And it does get down to the agent always, 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 regardless, right? So the agent has to be the one to communicate that the fact that the seller should be offering some concession to us as a buyer's agent, that we don't get to go stand in front of them and say that. That's on the listing agent. So you're absolutely right. So let me get back to this value proposition for us as real estate agents. Here's what I think you should do, right? Here's what I think you should be doing. Whenever you're not working on prospecting or you're not working on direct client interaction or real estate selling, you should be spending all the time and energy that you have developing your profile and your presence as an industry expert. What am I trying to say? I want you to have a calling card behind you so that when you're having a conversation with a potential client about commission or whatever, when you're trying to demonstrate your value to a client, aside from all of the publication stuff that we have that says what you're going to do, aside from all of your just, reviews out there that say how great you are, aside from all of that stuff, I want them to be able to Google you or look at your social media or whatever they do and go, wow, wow. Okay, now I see. Now I understand, right? I'm going to say social media and I'm going to say Google because that just seems to be the easiest, most accessible thing for us to go grab right now, right? Like if we decided we wanted to brand ourselves as a real estate expert, we could literally have a full feed that no one would scroll to the bottom of in 30 days, right? Because let's be honest, if I'm looking somebody up and I Google them and I kind of like cyber stalking them or whatever to find out more about them, I mean, how far do you scroll before you stop? It's pretty quick. It's pretty quick for me. It's kind of like, all right, hey, let me see this attorney. All right, great. I'm going to Google this attorney. Some stuff's going to come up. I'm going to go click, 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 positive, positive. That looks good. Done. I'm moving on. Right? Most of your clients or potential clients aren't going to be any different than that. Right? So if they want to see what's up with Caron, they might Google Caron. They might go to Caron's social media. They might scroll through a page, and they're done. So if Caron wanted to establish herself as an industry expert, all she really needs is like 15, 20 days worth of consistent I'm a pro real estate postings before it appears that she's branded that way. Okay. This is just simple stuff that I'm talking about. Getting on Google. But it's very, very particular content in my mind that says, hey, I'm worth every penny of what I might yell at somebody about or I might charge somebody about. It's data on market stats. It's data on things that are going on in the industry that are affecting home buyers. Okay. It's offering to be a resource in a different way than every other agent. Okay. I put something on the other day for the first time that, and I'm going to go farther with it too, where it's like, hey, you want some free training? Here it is. Right? I mean, nobody's going to do it. And I know that. And I'm okay with that. But when somebody scrolls through there, they're going to go, oh shit, this guy does free training for real estate agents that don't even work for him. Wow. He must be pretty savvy in the real estate game to do that. Nobody's going to do it, you guys. Right? Nobody's going to do it. Right? If you put on there an ad, for example, that said, hey, I'm so convinced that my sales methods are solid that I'm going to come in and give you a free analysis of your current listing and staging with no violation to agency. And I'm not going to charge you anything for it. Let me give you a free report on all of that. Nobody's going to do it. Okay? Nobody's going to do it. But you're working hard to establish that you are an expert. You're a cut above the average agent or the average broker in the industry. Therefore, you're worth more. Okay? Mix that in with all of the other great stuff that you guys put on the internet that's more personal, that talks about local events, that talks about local places that you might want to visit, that talks about great restaurants. I mean, you got to have that too. You can't just be boring like me and just put up stuff that, is industry. Unless you're just trying to chase real estate agents, then you can put that stuff up. But you guys are trying to chase clients. So you've got to put things about local flair. You've got to put things about restaurants. You've got to put things about shopping. You've got to put things that make people feel good. Spend your time doing that. Start to develop your brand. And when I say your brand, not just your NextHome brand or your agent brand, but your brand as an industry icon, an industry leader, a cut above, a resource, those kinds of things. If you can mix that in and start to develop that, it's going to be much, much easier to tell somebody, hey, I know what you read. I know what's out there. I know that you can go hire Jack or Jim or Jill or whatever for 2%. Okay. That would be the dumbest thing that you can do. You're going to hire me for 3%. I'm going to save you money or make you money in excess of that 1%. I can tell you how. And why would you ever want to do that? And oh, by the way, if you were really that concerned about it, that wouldn't be a Mercedes in your driveway. It would be a freaking Yugo. Okay? So don't talk to me about quality doesn't matter. All right? I noticed that you're not wearing shoes from Walmart. Don't talk to me about quality doesn't matter. This is the biggest purchase or biggest sale in your lifetime to date. Okay? 1% is not going to kill you, but doing it for a discount just might. You want to back that up with some kind of performance data or some kind of advertising or some kind of promotion of yourself that matches the words that are coming out of your mouth. It'll make it a lot easier. And those that do it, those that take the time to do it, will reap the benefit. You already have all your presentation stuff from NextHome. You already have all the stuff that just wows them, right? And talks about what you do and what you do above and beyond and everything else. I'm talking about adding to that arsenal, okay? If you're not spending time on developing your business or farming or talking to people or whatever else, spend the balance of your work time doing that. If you start now, by the middle of the year, it will be so established that no one will scroll past it, right? Well, we got a dog. Oh my goodness, look, he's how come he's so mellow? Look at him.
She's only 11 months, so she's a baby.
Really? And
A
she's
big baby.
wow. That is awesome. Yeah, totally take me off my game and my
Sorry.
Oh, dog. A dog. Okay, so work on that. Okay, you don't have to do it overnight. Chip at it. Put something on once a day would be amazing. But let's be realistic. Put something on a couple of times a week. Okay? Go out and find people that are posting this stuff and steal it. Okay? All of us belong to like real estate this, real estate that, real estate this, real estate that. Just scroll through them. Find a graphic and grab it and steal it. I mean, I do. I mean, I stole Caron's graphic. I stole Steve's graphic. I mean, find a graphic that you like and steal it. If you like any of my graphics, steal them. I don't care, right? Don't sit there and think, well, God, I got to come up with all this content on my own because that is impossible. Like, unless you're really, really good at that kind of stuff, that's really hard to do. You got to go out and steal some content and make it your own, right? All the little quotes on there with the nice mountains or the golf clubs or the icebergs or whatever, I stole that shit. Nobody's ever come and gotten me. Like, nobody's gotten me for copyright infringement or whatever else. Come on now. And if they do, I'll take it down. No problem. I didn't know. It's gone. There. It's all gone. Sorry about that. My bad. On to the next pilfering of somebody's content. Okay? Use that to your advantage. Trust me, there are people out there, because I talk to a lot of consultants that want my business. Okay? They're all stealing each other's stuff. Okay? They're all stealing each other's content. And they'll tell you straight up, go ahead and steal content. It's okay. They'll tell you that. All right. One last thing that I want to talk about, and that is that both people agree. Oh, now we'll have to get to that next. That's legal, but we'll have to get to that next. All right. I want to cover this because they both agree that AI and automation really came on harder than they thought it would in 24, and they expect that it's going to be even more ingrained in our real estate industry and our real estate business in 2025. Okay. What that means is that marketing companies, real estate companies, all of these companies are starting to introduce AI chatbots, AI response systems, AI this, AI that, all in the attempt to be more streamlined and to eliminate staff. Right? So if I've got a call center and I've got 75 employees, and I can hone that down to 5 employees because 90% of my issues get resolved with an AI chatbot that I purchased from Salesforce. Okay. That's going to increase my bottom line. That's going to continue. When I first think about it, I think, well, that sucks. And it does. But then when I think about it longer, I realize that the fact that automation and AI and everything is becoming more a part of all points of real estate communication. All points of real estate communication. Like, I'm pretty sure now, if not now, but in the very near future, that when a consumer clicks the button to talk to somebody at Zillow, they're not going to be talking to a person. Okay? Or when they click the button to talk to somebody at realtor.com, they're not going to be talking to a person. Okay? That's going to continue to expand, and it's even going to get into our websites. When somebody makes an inquiry on our websites, or when somebody makes an inquiry on our Real Scout or whatever, very soon we're going to have the option to say, I want a robot to handle that through these series of questions. And then when it gets really, really hot, or when it becomes really, really viable, I'll jump in. Okay? That's going to happen all over the place, industry-wide. Unless it doesn't. Right? It's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. And the consumer is going to start to get used to this. Right? What do you think they're going to think of you when they're used to this? When they're used to being AI to death and chatbot to death? What do you think they're going to think of you when they make an inquiry and you pick up the phone and dial it? It's going to blow their mind. Okay? It's going to blow their mind. In the middle of all this automation, as we go down the road, it's time for us to pick our opportunities to be extremely personal, right? This goes right into what I was talking about, demonstrating value, your value proposition. What makes you different than any other agent? Why do you retain a higher amount of commission? How can you demand a higher amount of commission? Okay? 2025. And Brendan's not here. He's in Mexico. Bum. But I told him the other day, 2025 is the year that we get back on the telephone. Okay? In a big, big way. And I think it's us, and I think it's agents, and I think it makes a huge, huge difference. Okay? when you get the instinct, when you get a lead, or when you get like some kind of situation where you're tempted to pick up the phone and text them real quick, particularly if it's early in the relationship, call them. Call them. And I'll tell you why. Chances are real good that they're not even going to answer. Okay? But then it goes something like this. Hey, Joe, I appreciate you working out or reaching out. It's Damian. I just wanted to call you real quick and chat a little bit more about your situation. Hey, I know you're busy. Call me back when you can. I'm going to go ahead and send you a text right now. But give me a call when you're free. Click. Okay. They're not going to do it. They're not going to be any different than me. The freaking phone starts ringing. I don't know who it is. Voicemail, right? I don't want to talk to you. I don't know who you are, right? They're going to do the same thing to you in the beginning. It's going to give you an opportunity to leave a voicemail. That's going to blow them away, followed up immediately by the text message that you really wanted to send anyways, because that's your preferred method of communication and their preferred method of communication. But they're going to remember that you called. Nobody does that anymore. Right? Spend some time building your brand as an expert, as a leader, as someone who's above the rest of the pack. Spend some time using your voice with human communication, even if it's just a voicemail. All right. Spend some time separating yourself and being prepared to justify your increase in commission, just like Alan did. Okay. Just like Alan did yesterday. I'm so glad that that happened and we could talk about it, because it makes all of this much more real and much more relevant. Okay. That didn't come easy. Okay. That didn't come easy, but hey, he's been in the industry for a long time. He was able to justify his value. He was able to identify why he's worth it, and it worked out just fine. It worked out just fine. 90% of the time, otherwise, guys, I promise you, it would have just been the one. It would have just been the one. Okay. All right.
Can I say something real quick? Oh, sorry. I'm just almost at my destination, but I wanted to say that a lot of the things that you said that are repetitive, like, you could just drip on people automatically. You could have things set up to, remember anniversaries and birthdays, and, follow up on conversations with text messages. And then it does actually work. It takes time, but those campaigns actually do work. I'm just starting to see, most people don't have money, two nickels to rub together, but they, the ones that do, it makes a difference, because when they're ready, they're going to follow up with you, and they do call you, and they'll call you in between and just touch base with you, and you can do the same. It's building a relationship. So I think that if you have a CRM system that can offer that, then it does help, and it will pay for itself.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you, Julie. Thank you for bringing that up. I don't disagree at all. In fact, I think that, you have to be running drip campaigns and campaigning that we do automatically and digitally all the time. Please don't abandon that. That is absolutely a critical piece of business. What I'm saying, and I think what you're saying is too, is it's time to think about augmenting that more with verbal stuff. So yeah, don't put, if I sent that message, take it back, guys. I don't mean turn off all your campaigns. I don't mean stop texting. I don't, that's not what I mean. What I mean is strategically pick your opportunities to blow their mind by being different. That's what I mean. Yeah. Thank you, Julie. All right. Anything else? Anybody got anything else? It's 55. I'm going to get you out of here. Covered a lot of content. I'll tell you what, we'll cover up the potential We'll cover what they thought would be some potential lawsuit issues in our industry next week. And we'll just, I'll leave that meeting bummed out. Okay. So, if there's nothing else, I'm gonna push the button in like 5 seconds. No football tonight. I'm not sure what we're gonna do. So, anyways, yeah. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you soon.